Getting an offer on your home feels like the finish line in a lot of ways, but it's not even close. That's actually where the real work starts and where most home sellers can leave money or leverage behind. Here are the 15 things you should never agree to when you are selling your home. Some of these are going to be Georgia specific, some are going to be obvious, some will surprise you. All of them are things that you should absolutely make sure that you get right. Number one, never agree to let a buyer do any work before closing. And I mean anything. No painting, having their contractor measure for custom cabinets, clearing out the crawl space, none of it. I get why it happens. The buyer is excited, they've mentally already moved in and they're starting their list of projects, and your home is sitting vacant and it feels completely harmless. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. Until that deed records and all the contracts are signed and those funds hit your account, that is your home. If a contractor gets hurt, a pipe gets nicked, or something gets opened up that creates a problem, that's your liability, that's your insurance, that is your mess to deal with while the deal is hanging in the balance. Now, there is a distinction worth knowing. Inspections are different. Buyers absolutely have the right to inspect the property during due diligence and throughout the contract process, right? That's just part of it. But what they don't have the right to do is send workers in to start making changes. An inspector looking at your home is completely normal. A tile guy measuring your bathroom floor is not. Know the difference and make sure your agent is tracking every single person that is coming into your home. Number two, never agree to transfer your warranties without reading what that actually means. A lot of sellers have warranties on the HVAC system, on appliances, maybe structural warranty if it's a newer build. Buyers will ask to have those transferred to them as part of the deal, and that sounds completely fair. But here's what sellers miss. Some of those warranties have transfer fees, some of them require an inspection before a transfer, some of them, and this is one of the big ones that bites people, is they have conditions that if your home doesn't meet them at the time of the transfer, you're now on the hook to fix whatever they flag. Before you agree to transfer anything, read the actual warranty documents, have your agent find out what that process looks like. Don't just say yes in the offer and then figure it out later. Figure that part out first. Number three, never agree to an earnest money amount that doesn't actually protect you. In Georgia, earnest money usually starts around 1%. On a $700,000 home, that's $7,000. And honestly, I just think that's too low. Earnest money is what a buyer loses if they walk away without a contractual valid reason. It's the difference between a serious buyer and someone who just wants to tie up your home while they think about it. I tend to push for around 2% minimum on my listings, sometimes more. A buyer who is serious won't flinch at that number. Don't make it financially easy for someone to walk away the day before closing. Number four, and this is something I see a lot, is never ever casually fill out your seller's property disclosure. Whatever you put on that form, the buyer is relying on. It becomes a part of the contract. Sellers fill it out fast and they don't think twice about it. Then the final walkthrough happens and something doesn't match. The most common one I see is you marked that the washer and dryer as conveying, your movers didn't know, and they loaded them onto the moving truck. Buyers show up and they're gone. Now you have an unhappy buyer and a closing day negotiations that you never saw coming. Here's the thing, people will surprise you with how upset they get over a washer and dryer. Go through that form slowly with your agent and make sure everyone touching your home before closing knows exactly what's going and what is staying. Number five, never agree to a buyer moving in early. I know this is one that's on every list, but I'm also putting it on mine too because I still see it happen and it can end very badly. The scenario is always sympathetic. the buyer sold their home faster than they expected. They've got kids and a dog and a moving truck and nowhere to go for 2 weeks. You've already moved out and the house is sitting empty. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. The moment someone moves into your home before closing, you have an occupancy situation, and in Georgia law, they take that very seriously. If that deal falls apart and weird things happen and deals fall apart, even after loan docs are signed, getting those people out of your home is not simple, it is not fast, and it is absolutely not free. If a buyer absolutely needs early occupancy for some legitimate reason, there is a way to structure that with a formal lease agreement, insurance requirements, and a daily rate. But that conversation is to be had very carefully with your agent, not a casual yes over text, let them move in. Don't do that. Number 6, never agree to a repair request without getting your own quote first. After inspections, buyers come back with a list, and attached to that list is usually a number. How much they want credit for repairs. Here's what sellers don't realize. Those numbers often come straight from inspectors, just in casual conversations, and inspectors are not contractors. They flag issues, they don't price them. And maybe conversations are had and the inspector gave them some ballpark figure. I've seen buyers ask for $10,000 based on an inspector's estimate that turned out to be a $2,500 pretty simple fix. If you just say yes because you want to keep the deal moving, you've left $7,500 on the table for absolutely no reason. Before you agree to any credit or repair, get your own contractor in there. Get a real number. Respond based on an actual cost, not what someone estimated on a report. It takes a couple of days and it's almost always saves you a lot of money. Number 7, never just sit on the market and hope that the right buyer shows up. When the price of your home is off, the market is going to tell you pretty immediately. Showings slow down, days on market start climbing, and buyers see it. They see 45 days on the market and immediately start asking themselves, what's wrong with this house? Even if the answer is absolutely nothing, it was just priced too high to begin with. But the sellers tend to just wait. They think the right buyer is coming, and by the time they finally adjust, they've burned through the most valuable thing a listing has. That early window when your home is new and buyers are paying attention, you just don't get that back. If you were not getting showings in the first 2 weeks, that's a conversation to have with your agent immediately. Number 8, never agree to cover open-ended repair cost with no cap. If you negotiate repairs after inspection, and let's say you agree to fix something based on the inspections that the buyer did and you agreed to fix whatever, you need to agree to have a dollar amount attached to that repair. If the contract reads something like, seller agrees to remediate water intrusion, that is not a complete sentence. That is a terrible sentence to put in a contract. It needs to read something like this. Seller agrees to remediate water intrusion in the crawl space up to $5,000. That's a complete sentence. You don't want to end up on the hook for some $30,000 worth of work that you never anticipated and I'm sure probably wouldn't have agreed to in the first place. Number 9, never let your home slip once it's listed. Once you're on the market, every showing matters. You don't know which one is going to be your buyer. But what I see happen all the time is that the sellers get comfortable. After a few weeks, the dishes in the sink start piling up, the dog is still in the house, the lights are off, the thermostat is cranked down to 65 and it's uncomfortably cold in the house, the clutter starts creeping back in. Buyers form an opinion in the first 30 seconds they walk through your door, not in the first 5 minutes, 30 seconds. And that feeling that they get walking into the door is almost impossible to undo no matter how great the rest of the home is. You only get one shot at every single person who walks through that door. Treat every showing like it's the one that matters, because it might be. Number 10, never agree to contingencies that have no end date. Contingencies are completely normal and part of the contract. You have inspection contingencies, financing contingencies, sometimes a home sale contingency if the buyer needs to sell their home first before they buy yours. All is fine. But what is not fine is an open-ended one with no deadline attached, contingent on buyers selling their home. There's no expiration date, so you could be sitting on the market for 2 months while the buyer lists their home and it collects days on market and price reductions, and you have no visibility and no leverage in showing your own house. Any home sale contingency needs to have a firm date and a kickout clause, meaning if a better offer comes in, you can notify the buyer, give them a short window to remove the contingency, and if they can't, then you get to move on. Without that, you're really just under contract and you're just sitting there waiting. It's just not a good position to be in. Number 11, never agree to include personal property in the sales contract. If a buyer wants your patio furniture, the mounted TVs, the garage shelving, great. But that conversation does not belong in the purchase and sell agreement. Mixing personal property into a real estate contract creates confusion around value, and it can complicate the appraisal process, and it gives underwriters something to question. Handle it separately in a separate bill of sale after you are under contract. Number 12, never agree to an offer without a verified pre-approval. And know the difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved. Pre-qualification and pre-approval are not the same thing. A pre-qualification is someone answering a few questions online and they got a letter based on their responses. Pre-approval means a lender actually pulled their credit, they verified their income and a bunch of other documents, and there's a big difference. Before you counter any offer, make sure your agent is calling that lender directly, not just glancing at a letter. Confirm that the buyer is solid, that the lender and the buyer can meet the timelines that are in the contract, and that the letter isn't 6 months old from a rate environment that doesn't exist anymore, because that can impact whether they can afford your home or not. Number 13, never agree to credits that you haven't done the math on. Closing costs are very common in Atlanta right now, and buyers are asking for them, and sometimes it makes sense to give them. But there needs to be a ceiling. Conventional loans typically cap seller concessions at 3% for buyers putting less than 10% down on their loan. FHA and VA loans have their own limits. If you agree to a credit that exceeds what that loan program allows, that money just doesn't automatically have to go to the buyer. But it does become an argument on what happens to the extra funds. Know the loan type before you agree to a credit and know the amount. Your agent should be doing the math on this before you sign anything, because if the closing costs that you are getting or that you are giving exceeds what the buyer can accept, can you keep those funds, or do you have to take it off the purchase price? Like, there's some things that you can do, but again, I think it's just best to know what those numbers are before you get into an argument with the buyer, okay? Number 14, never agree to a verbal amendment to your contract. This one seems obvious, and yet it happens all the time. The buyer agent calls your agent, they work something out on the phone, everyone agrees, nobody writes it up. In Georgia, amendments to a purchase and sale contract need to be in writing and signed by all parties to be enforceable. A phone call is not an amendment. A text message is not an amendment. And an email chain where everyone says, yep, sounds good, is not legally binding. If something changes, the closing date, the repair agreement, the inclusion or exclusion of something, it goes on an amendment form. It gets signed and it gets added to the file. Every single time, no exceptions. That is your protection. Number 15, never agree to an offer just because it's the first one. Now, I will tell you, your first offer tends to be your best, but not if it comes in Thursday night before you've had any weekend showing. So if you list on a Thursday morning and you have a contract or you have an offer on Thursday night, that early offer is actually a signal that your price is right and more buyers are likely coming. Let it breathe through the weekend. That patience can mean multiple offers and real money left on the table if you jump too early. If it's strong, if it's a clean offer from a qualified buyer and they give you an offer you absolutely can't refuse, then move on it. But respond from strategy, not panic and relief. If you are thinking about selling your home in Atlanta and you want to talk through your specific situation with me, you can call or text me. The number is on the screen. Yes, that is my cell phone number. And hey, if you're wondering why some homes are sitting on the market for months while other ones are getting multiple offers, this next video is for you. I hope to see you over there.